My goal is to infect 1 billion people with the possibility virus. Advice just is almost never as good as you think it is. Not least because, in 2025, it's easier to get good advice from a computer than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Like, advice is so cheap, so obvious, so findable.
Michael Bungay Stanier is a renowned thought leader in coaching and leadership.
He's a best-selling author and was named the #1 thought leader in coaching in 2019 and 2023.
Michael is a Rhodes Scholar and won the Coaching Award at the prestigious Thinkers 50.
I think if you've somehow created a relationship with no conflict in it, you probably haven't understood the brief. I do love that saying about marriage, which is like, a good marriage is when you both think you're getting the better half of the deal. Your last 10 years are probably going to be a bit crappy. They are for most people. And your job now is to train for your last decade.
What's your invitation to people listening, people who are in midlife, people who are maybe have stumbled across a few of the things that you talked about today for the first time and are going,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting.
What's the burden it's time to put down?
From our studio in Jones Bay Wharf, Sydney, here's Pod O'Sullivan with Don't Let the Old Man In, a podcast from the Wisdom Vault.
Let's start here. Kate Winslet, the famous philosopher turned actor, once said, confidence comes with age and looking beautiful comes from that confidence that a person has in themselves. Right, beautiful quote to start with.
Are you going to tell me that I'm a very good-looking man?
I'm going to tell you you're a very good-looking man. But what I am going to ask you is,
start to a podcast.
at the age of 3, you used to walk up to strangers in supermarkets and go, I can hop. Do you want to see me hop?
Yeah, I'm Michael. I can hop. Yeah.
That's either the most confident 3-year-old I've ever heard of or someone who's getting used to breaking social taboos very quickly. Where did that confidence come from?
It's unclear. I know it's confusing to my parents because my parents were not particularly confident and not particularly outgoing folks.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling they kind of looked at me going, who is this child? And truly one of the things that has been so helpful in my life is just a wiring to think that I'm pretty much all right. I have my moments, but I don't really have a soundtrack in my head going, you're a bit shit. I start off my emails with this little signature, you're awesome and you're doing great.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much what just is in the backbeat of my head and probably always has been. A kind of a willingness to kind of think that I can probably do it. Here's a story. So when I was 8 or 9, growing up in Canberra, the Canberra Times, our local paper, started a fun run, 10-kilometre fun run from Woden into the centre of town. And I was like 9, and I'm like, I'm going to enter that. And my parents were like, fine. They were brilliant at both being confused about who I was and also not getting in the way of that. And I was getting ready the night before. I had this little pack of jelly beans, I remember. But Mum could tell I was looking a little nervous. And she's like, what are you feeling nervous about? I'm like, well, here's the thing. If I'm leading the race, what happens if I'm not sure what the right way to go is? Will there be people directing me on the right thing? I was like, I think probably the 9-year-old is not going to win the inaugural 10-kilometre Canberra Times fun run. But that's just really indicative of kind of like, I'm probably going to win the Canberra Times fun run.
I haven't even thought about I might not.
Yeah. And what comes with that, which again is just I'm pretty sure it's just a wiring in my brain somehow, is when it doesn't work, and quelle surprise, it always never works. I rarely take that as a sign of personal failing. I just go, okay, well that's let me spin it into a story, because there's always a good story to be had here. Yeah. And B, in some ways it's just okay, well great, next move on. It's not a personal failing, or it's just reality. Yeah. Doesn't mean that I'm any less good because I didn't win the Canberra Times fun run.
At age 9.
At age 9.
Your first time running.
Exactly. Yeah.
After a night full of jelly beans.
Exactly. Yeah.
When I think of you, and Michael, I think of you a lot. When I think of you, I think of this rebelliousness, curiosity that you have. And you talk about curiosity a lot.
I do, yeah.
And I also think of reinvention. You reinvent yourself a lot. And you and I have spoken about this quite a few times over the years of knowing each other. So I'd like to explore,
Yeah, that's right.
both of those two areas today. That sense of rebelliousness has got you into trouble more than once.
Yeah.
You have been threatened to be sued by a law professor
I
while you're
was sued.
studying law.
No,
You
no,
were
I
sued.
was sued. Yeah, exactly. It's sued
You
by
were
one of my
banned
own
from your high
professors.
school.
Yeah.
You're banned from your graduation because of a
Balloon incident.
balloon incident that we might talk about later.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying you almost didn't get to go to Oxford in terms of your Rhodes Scholarship?
The Rhodes Scholarship, I mean, it's when I was 14, and this again, this kind of internal narrative that has really been wind in my sails. I'm 14. A teacher at my high school said, "So what do you want to do when you like leave high school?" And I'd given it exactly 0 minutes thought because I'm 14.
Yeah.
But my dad is English, and my dad actually went to Oxford to study because he grew up in Oxford. His dad was a headmaster there, and there's a
I know
local
that.
boy. Yeah, Bob was headmaster at Magdalen College School, which is a feeder into Magdalen College, one of the colleges at Oxford. So dad grew up in Oxford. He can punt like nobody I've ever seen. I mean, he really knows how to punt a bundle around. And so I was like, well, I probably want to go to Oxford because dad was a kind of a hero and a role model for me. So I want to go to Oxford. And Mr. Lennox went, well, okay, you'll probably need to be a Rhodes Scholar for that. And I was like, all right, noted. I'll sort out
I'll do that.
and win a Rhodes Scholarship. The first time I applied, they were like, hey, here's what you do. You fill out the form, you go through all the hoops. Everybody gets a first interview, then there's a short list and the second interview, and then they're selected. First time I applied, I get a letter back. I didn't even get a first interview. Having been told by the woman behind the desk, everybody gets a first interview. I didn't get a first interview. And I was like, huh.
How does that hit your narrative?
Yeah. Well, I was a bit grumpy for a while.
Yeah.
But in 2 years' time, I was like, okay, I'm going to come back and take another crack at this and do it a little better. And this time, I got onto the short list.
Okay.
The night before the day of the big interviews, we all went to Parliament House and for dinner. And I was looking around and I'm like, I'm definitely not going to win this Rhodes Scholarship because there's a lot of university medal winners. And everybody was power dressed in the style of the time. So all the boys were wearing blue suits and white shirts and red ties. They're kind of Trumpian, in fact.
Right.
The women were wearing kind of pearls and blue blazers. I wasn't. I had long blonde hair. I had piercings. I had a tie-dyed pink tie. I was going a different direction. But we went into Parliament House.
Which is like the White House
It's
or
like
Downing Street or
exactly.
that
It's
kind
like
of
a real significant cultural place, and we sat in this amazing dining hall. It had Fred Williams paintings all over the walls, and Fred Williams is a wonderful Australian painter. I love him. And it was a very performative night because everybody's trying to be, charming and urbane and wise and take up more than their share of airtime. And I'm like, I'm definitely screwed here. So I thought, you know what? It's amazing I've got this far. I'm already a legend. See, I'm already retelling the story about how I lost, but I'm still a legend for it. And I'm gonna nick a teaspoon.
Right.
So I've got a little teaspoon in my collection as an old man, saying, "Look, here's the teaspoon from
When I was in Parliament
the
House.
time when I was almost a Rhodes Scholar." Anyway, so I've got this plan, and then I think I got swept up in the performative nature of it all, and I forgot to steal the teaspoon.
Right.
I forgot to steal this. Damn it! And that turned out to be a good moment because as you leave Parliament House, you walk through a metal detector because apparently teaspoons get stolen all the time. And I was like, oh, that would have been an awkward moment. Even I couldn't have spun my way out of the kleptomania. I'm like, look, I stole a teaspoon, but you should also include me. Cecil Rhodes stole a lot of, Rhodesia / Tanzania, so maybe I'm in the right vibe. But yeah, so I've had my moments. You say rebellious, and that probably over eggs the pudding.
Right.
Because if you think what it takes to really stand up, like people are doing in so many different contexts today, which is like, I'm actually putting myself on the line. I'm actually self-sacrificing. I'm actually putting myself at risk.
Yeah.
I've done stuff which is slightly pushing back on the system, but typically in a slightly safe way. Being sued by a law professor because we complained about a way he was teaching something. I guess it's vaguely rebellious, but mostly it's pretty tame.
Well, it's rebellious from the point of view how old you were, and that put your graduation at risk.
Yeah,
So from
which
that
I
perspective,
hadn't
you're
quite
beneficial.
realized that.
That's right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean the balloon incident, which I put in my resume because it's intriguing. Banned from his high school graduation for the balloon
Yeah,
incident.
yeah.
But it's such a non-rebellious act. I mean, headmaster's very last year after 30 years being the headmaster at this school. The class beforehand, like the year previously, their final year, had basically trashed the school. They
Right.
put super glue in the locks. They put weed killer on the field saying F you, whatever. I think they brought in a herd of sheep into one of the
Right.
quadrangle. I mean, it was just like
Classic Canberra students.
classic Canberra students,
Yeah.
exactly. And it
Yeah.
cost the school a bunch of money, and they were like, absolutely none of their shenanigans this year. And they had security teams and stuff all over the place. I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to bring in a flock of sheep because I
Yeah.
don't know how to find a flock of sheep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but we went to a Anglican school and we had a chapel and it actually had a domed roof.
Okay.
And so me and some friends snuck in the morning and just filled the domed roof with some helium balloons.
All right.
I know. I mean, it's like,
And that was it.
and that was it.
Oh,
Then we got caught, and we
right.
then got banned from our graduation because we had done something.
Right.
But I mean, that's a pretty
It's
mild.
low level
It's
aggression.
pretty low
Yeah,
level
yeah,
activism,
yeah, yeah,
as far as
yeah.
activism goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But in the context of the previous people, I can see why they reacted to what it sounds better in your resume than
It's-
reality.
that's why on the resume I'm like the balloon incident, and I leave it kind of sounding mysterious because
Yeah.
people's imaginations are far better than the actual story.
Fair enough. But the question still remains. You are someone who is inherently curious,
Yeah.
and you have not sat back in your laurels. You remain curious.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
talk about curiosity. You deliver speeches about it. You've written about it.
Yeah.
How does that impact us at midlife? Like in terms of how do we stay curious as we get older? Because it's easier to not.
The way I think about it is curiosity is one of the forces that moves you forward. And the Woody Allen quote, it's like this relationship is like a shark, it has to keep moving. And what we have here is a dead shark. And I'm like, it's in some I'm not sure if Woody Allen is, can we quote Woody Allen anymore? I don't know. I like Woody Allen, yeah. But there's the quote that I love about midlife, the one that resonates for me most, and I have it on my desk, is from a poem by Rilke, The Man Watching. It's translated. And it's wonderful because it's a story of the wrestling with the angel. I'm an atheist, but that story of Jacob wrestling with the angel. And what's so wonderful about this poem by Rilke is he's like, look, the two things you need to know about wrestling with an angel. Number one, you're always going to lose. Like nobody gets to beat the angel, right? Here's this image of like thumbprints in your shoulders, which are so vivid and visceral. But the other thing you need to know is that the angel doesn't wrestle with everyone. The angel only wrestles with you if you're up to something, if you're doing something that really matters, if you're like engaging in the heft of the world. And the line that really resonates for me is like his goal is not to win. His goal is to be deeply defeated by ever greater things. So partly for me, the curiosity is part of the force that makes me go, well, what are ever greater things for me? How do I stay curious about that? Because look, I'm not that interested in sliding into a comfortable middle age, like playing golf. And there's probably golf players here who are like, damn you, golf is harder than you think. I'm like, I know golf is harder than you think. I'm a bad golf player.
Yeah.
But the idea of kind of that, not continuing to kind of crack yourself open to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you like being defeated then by ever greater things? I think the
I
idea.
want to put myself in a place where I'm going, like, I'm not totally sure how this plays out. I'm not totally, I have to call on my wits. I have to step out to the edge of who I am and what I know and how I show up in the world and who I am to kind of, to meet the unknown there. So what it actually for me says is like you stop worrying less about am I going to get the medal and the trophy and the prize? And more about how do I keep moving into the wilderness?
Is there a safety net for you when you do that?
I think I have a safety net, and part of it's psychological.
Yeah.
And psychologically, I just go, my wife and I talk about this all the time. We've already won.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've already won.
Yeah.
Like, I've been married 30 years. I've had work I love to do. I've made enough money to live on. I'm not a dick.
Yeah.
There's so many ways
Yeah.
I'm like, I've already won.
Yeah.
So
icing.
So I'm like, well, what am I striving for if I've already won?
Yeah.
So partly it's about the striving. And partly it's a thought of what is at risk. And I think about this. I think it's one of the things I'm good at. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I just have a glib way of thinking about this. Because I go, look, when you're taking on anything, there's stuff at risk.
Yeah.
There's time, there's money, there's reputation, and there's health.
Yeah.
Now, health is really worth looking after. In terms of money, you've got it, and you should know how much you can lose. Like, in terms of setting up this whole amazing setup here, we've got money. We're going to figure out if we can make something work here. It might not work. We know how much money we're going to lose if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So money, you kind of go, how much can I afford to lose?
Yeah.
It's often more than you think. In terms of time, if you're like, this is the best use I can think of for my time. I mean, like, you're going, this whole process around midlife wisdom, like, this is the best thing I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. It's like, so if it doesn't work, it was still the best use of my time that I could think of.
Yeah. I'd be doing this for fun anyway.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And then in terms of reputation, what I've discovered is, in almost all contexts, nobody really thinks about you.
Yeah.
Like, nobody actually cares. That wonderful quote, I used to worry what people thought of me until I realized nobody thought of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, like, I have a minor reputation in some small ponds. In some small ponds, I'm a medium-sized fish.
Yeah.
But mostly, nobody's ever heard of me. Nobody ever will hear of me. So,
you have sold 1.5 million copies of the Coaching Habits.
I have. But
1.5 million people know of you. But your point is still the same. Your
Yeah.
point is we worry about our reputation a whole lot more than anybody else ever worries about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, by the way, when stuff goes wrong, most people don't hear about it.
Yeah. That's right.
And even if you're center stage and front page, if the front pages exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
If it's changed tomorrow.
Yeah, that comes and it goes.
That's right.
And it's like suddenly going, we're going to some other crisis, and people have forgotten about you for the most part.
I love what you said about, what's the cost of doing this? Because my wife, Carol, who you know, whenever I come up with, hey, I want to do something, she goes, okay, will it make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Tick. All right. Will it affect your health?
Yeah.
Will it cost us our financial security?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, yes, and no,
Yeah.
then she goes, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then together, she and I set a limit in terms of, like, the virtual reality business that I set up a couple of years ago. We set ourselves a limit of a couple of $100,000 to go. Here's what it is. And if it goes past that point of view and there's no line of sight, we got to stop it.
Yeah.
I stopped it halfway through that limit because I can't see the line of sight.
Yeah.
But we already agreed on we could lose this amount. We lost that amount.
Yeah.
We had fun along the way.
And it's easy to kind of catastrophize around what the failure might be.
Yeah.
And one of the great questions is how much is enough in terms of what you have, and this is both time and money and everything else. But it's like, how much money do I need? How much can I afford to therefore play with and perhaps gamble, not literally gamble, but kind of put on the line? It's a really helpful discipline to go, all right, so what that means is when I'm being deeply defeated, I'm not really risking anything tangible and material that I can't afford to lose. What I am is I'm being cracked open. Like, I'm getting angel thumbprints in my chest. And I'm like, man, I'm not, like, as I say, I'm an atheist, but I would love an angel thumbprint, here and here. That feels pretty damn good to me. Yeah.
Have you felt that over your career? That thumbprint?
Yeah. I mean, the coaching habit is one of those moments for sure.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea for the book. It wasn't my first book, but and I in fact published another book with a New York publisher, With the coaching habit, I went, I got this next book, and they're like, okay, write it up, and they're like, oh, well, we don't like that particularly, but why don't you go and have another crack at it? So I wrote another version of the book, and they were like, yep, we still don't see it, but why don't you have another crack at it? And I did this, I think, 5 or 6 times.
Right.
And finally I got fed up with it. So it'd taken 3 years of me endlessly writing this book and them going, oh, we love it, but we don't love it.
That's right.
Why don't
Not
you
enough.
Yeah, why don't you have another go?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna call them on this. So I was like, okay, this is it. It's like a yes or no, and this is kind of your last shot at it.
Yeah.
I've got a really clear idea now what this book is because I kind of went through the slough of despair and the swamp of uncertainty and the high plains of hopelessness.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm pretty clear on it, and I was so sure they were going to back me because I, sold 60 or 70,000 copies of a previous book, which is pretty
Which
good.
is a good number.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
And they were like, nope, we don't like it. I was like, sad face. But then, pretty quickly went, well, damn it, I'm just going to self-publish it. And then I'm going to commit to talking about it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like I'm really going to go, I'm just really investing in this. And the ups and downs of that journey felt like angel wrestling a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I want to come back to that later on because, as you said, in some parts of the world, you're a megastar, and in many, many parts of the world, they've never heard of you. And selling 50,000 copies of a book is a great outcome.
Yeah.
Selling 1.5 million copies of a book is extraordinary. Selling 1.5 million copies of a book that you self-published is like so unique a story.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to come back to that.
I wish I knew how I did it. I would love to be able to repeat.
There goes my question.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you do this, Michael?
Well, I mean, I know what I did.
Yeah.
But that whole survivor bias, which is like, oh, this is how the successful person did it. This must be how you do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is how the successful person once did it once.
That's right. And it
10 years
played out
ago.
that way.
Yeah.
That's right. But let's jump to reinvention. You I said earlier on, your rebelliousness, curiosity got you into trouble, but it never derailed you. Like you went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship.
Right.
Many people go to Oxford. I'm going there soon. They let anyone to
congratulations.
Oxford,
Exactly.
right? But you went there on a Rhodes Scholarship, which is very unique. You came out. You've been awarded Coach of the Year in Canada. You've been awarded in the Thinkers Top 50. You won that twice.
Yeah.
You've had an extraordinary career. And you've reinvented yourself along the way. You haven't just done the same thing. Like you haven't written the same book 10 times.
Yeah.
What do you think about in terms of I'm going to reinvent myself? Like here's I'm going to do it again. Or or in hindsight, what's the process you've been through to reinvent yourself?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is like reinventing yourself is not necessarily the right answer. There's that Malcolm Gladwell study, which he took from some other academic and kind of popularized. I remember interviewing that other academic. He was so pissed because he's like, this is all my work. And I'm like, yeah, but Malcolm Gladwell knows how to tell a story. And
That's right.
You don't.
And he does it very well.
Yeah. But he looked at Picasso and who's the impressionist who painted apples? He painted lots of apples, and he painted Mont Saint Victoire.
I don't know.
I think.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So if you look at Picasso, he just reinvented himself 1,000 times. He's like blue period, pink period, weird cubist period, I draw bulls period. I mean, he just kind of kept reinventing himself. And whereas Monet, he just painted apples. He's like, I'm going to paint. He had 2 pictures that he painted.
Again and
One
again.
was apples.
Yeah.
One was a mountain. Then it was apples. And they both are great artists. The Monet paintings, they become more and more valuable as he got older. Picasso's earlier paintings are more valuable than his later paintings, apparently. Or to say, there's no one right answer here. It's like reinvention is one process, just deepening your mastery is another process. I'm more wired to the reinvention piece. And in part that's because I know that I'm wired to a kind of future orientation. It's like kind of what's next. So the way I think about it is, uh, some 20 years ago, I did a kind of a retreat of sorts and came up with this idea of a personal mission or vision. I'm never quite sure what the difference is between these, but kind of big picture. What the hell am I here for? What am I doing? As I say, I'm an atheist, so I'm like, I'm here once and then I'm done.
Yeah.
But how do I make this? How do I have a sense of what the purpose of my life is? And here's how I put it. My goal is to infect 1 billion people with the possibility virus. Now, this did sound better before COVID happened, when infecting a whole bunch of people with viruses became less cool.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I started the COVID virus, so nailed it. And so for me, in that little phrase, there's a bunch of principles entangled in it, which are helpful for me. One is a scale of ambition, like 1 billion people. Like I can't even figure out what 1 billion people is.
Yeah.
But it means like I'm going to affect 20% of the world's population or 15% of the world's population. So it's just it's thinking at scale, and that's helpful for me. The possibility virus is kind of, for me, it's a kind of core principle about life, which is in your life you have choices. Make the bold choice. Be brave. That's essentially what possibility virus is. Notice what your choices are and try and make the best choice in that moment. And I think a lot of times as humans, we don't always know that we have choice. We don't always know that we have agency. And even when we do, we sometimes take the less good choice.
Yeah.
And the idea of a virus means that I'm trying to create stuff that spreads without me. Like I'm trying to decenter myself, as the jargon would have it. So it means that I'm not really seeking the kind of the acclamation of the guru or the in the spotlight. I quite like those moments occasionally, but I'm not trying to center myself on I have to be the hero of this journey. I'm trying to actually go, look, I'm trying to get stuff out in the world. So for the coaching habit, there's lots of people who've come across the 7 questions and stuff that I talk about in that, who have no idea who I am. They probably got taught it because somebody loved the book and they went, let me teach you the 7 questions. The book's not referenced, I'm not referenced.
At least once a month on LinkedIn, I see someone producing the 7 questions as if it's theirs.
I know, exactly.
And I see you going, I really like that book. My name is Michael Bungay Stanier.
Yeah, exactly. Or often it's other people going, I really like this, and also why don't you credit Michael for it?
Yeah.
But for me, it's a success that the ideas are spreading.
Yeah.
Shannon, who runs the Box of Crayons, it's the training company that teaches the IP in the book, she's like, damn it. That's less good for her. But I think the bigger win is the stuff that's
so it is spreading.
Yeah. What I think about is when I finish a project, I then go, what's my best guess at the next project that best gets me to infecting 1 billion people with the possibility virus? And that's how I figure out what's next. And the reinvention just happens as part of that.
But you've like if you think about the word, the notion of identity, and you talk about mastery earlier on, and then you talk about this kind of 2 different paths you could go down, and neither are better or worse; they're just different paths. You and I have spent a lot of time mastering the craft of coaching. Yeah. Arguably, you've won more awards than I've ever won. We both went down the route of trying to get that.
Is it arguable or is it just a fact?
It's probably just a fact. I have to think about it. But thank you for pointing it out.
We can argue it if you want.
Let me get some awards. You were listening. But we've also, in parallel, experimented with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So we kind of did both paths, right? What I noticed around midlife, a lot of folks have their identity wrapped up in what they have been good at for a long time. And that is the identity.
It's so hard.
Yeah. And Tim Ferriss, who you and I both know from a podcasting perspective, he talks about identity diversification as in how do you build out your identity? How do you try different things? And I wonder, is that a starting point that you've been just naturally doing for a long time, as in you don't think of myself as the guy who wrote this book and that's it. You think of yourself as much bigger or different to that.
I think one of the truths about how I'm wired is I'm very non-nostalgic.
Right.
So it's relatively easy for me to go, oh, look, that coaching habit, I'm so delighted about it. It is amazing the success it's had. We're doing a 10-year anniversary book for it next year, which is wonderful. But it also feels a little separate from me as well. I'm like it's a project I did and it's out there in the world now and it's doing its own thing. And I went through this more significantly when I stopped being the CEO at Box of Crayons. So I started Box of Crayons and for 15 or 16 years ran it. And I ran it only because I started it. It turns out I am a lousy CEO. I have no idea what to do. And when I do know what to do, I have no real interest in doing it. So it's like and I kind of got back by on chutzpah and, you know, blagging my way around it and good luck and stuff. Um, but the process of bringing in Shannon as the CEO, my kind of successor, that was a very interesting need to disentangle myself from Box of Crayons. And even though I think I'm pretty good at wiring that, what I noticed is that the way I think about it is after I'd stopped being the CEO, I was still in the valley of Box of Crayons.
Right.
And it meant for the first year or so, I really couldn't think of much else to do that didn't sound a lot like some version of what I'd
What you
just
were
done.
doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did two things that turned out to be helpful. One is I just knew that it would take me a while to kind of hike to the ridge line so I could get out of the valley of Box of Crayons and
Yeah.
kind of see the rest of the landscape
Yeah.
and go, oh, there's other stuff
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
The other thing I did was an exercise with a woman called Erin Weed. It's called the Dig.
Okay.
I was super skeptical about
Yeah.
it.
Maybe tell me at the time.
Yeah, because she's like, look, I'll sit down with you. We'll have 2 3 hour conversations over Zoom, and I will create a word ecosystem. I'll give you your word ecosystem, based on just the stories you tell me. I was like, this couldn't sound more woo woo and
Yeah.
flaky.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty good facilitator, so if things are facilitated badly, I get kind of snooty about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm deeply intolerant. It turns out a bad facilitation. Anyway, we kicked off, and she's basically she did a great job. She's asking me about my stories in my life and what matters to me. And even as we are doing this, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know what my words are going to be. Or, they're going to be something like curiosity and questions and possibilities and creativity and box of crayons-ish, kind of that vibe.
Yeah.
But she ended up giving me 3 words that I thought were immensely powerful and helped reboot my identity a bit and decouple from box of crayons.
Yeah.
One was confidence.
Okay.
The confidence I have and the confidence I bring to others.
Is it 3-year-old? I'm
Exactly.
like I can help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One was forward, meaning momentum, but also looking into the future.
Okay.
And the third one, and the kind of the central one, was power. I love that she offered that up
Ah.
because it was so surprising to me.
Well, what did power mean in this
What
context?
power means is I am looking to disrupt the traditional
Right.
structures of power,
Got it.
which kind of comes back to this rebellious
Just
thing.
curiosity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps I don't quite understand. I don't quite resonate with rebel, but kind of disruptor
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
dismantler.
Yeah.
Because part of what I think about this will sound, as the young people say, this will sound quite woke, but I feel like I'm pretty much been dealt all the cards. I'm tall, I'm white, I'm straight, I'm male, I'm eloquent, I'm overeducated. I have a speech impediment, which makes me just slightly interestingly different. It's like I just kind of like I'd be hard pressed not to have some success because I'm like I pretty much nailed the whole privilege thing as far as that goes. But I'm really interested in going, so how do I disrupt that? So for me, in terms of wrestling with an angel, which is a question you asked before,
Yeah.
the process of handing over the CEO-ship to Shannon and
Yeah.
seeing her step in and
Yeah.
grow and thrive and be a really brilliant CEO.
She's doing really well.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah.
But this idea of encouraging others to step into a spotlight for me is a really powerful calling. And you and I over dinner last night were talking about this notion of eldership.
Yes.
What does that mean? Part of it's like, if I've already won,
Yeah.
what am I competing for? How do
Yeah.
I now help others win even more?
But it does require that. I love what you said about the valley and the ridge. It does require you coming out of the valley
Yeah.
in order to see what is where.
Yeah, you have to take the
Yeah.
time and you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit there, you're like, I can't think of anything else to do. It's like, well, because you haven't really tried very hard. You haven't disrupted yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the story you have around, heading down to your beach house. And weren't you kind of trapped there because of COVID? You're like,
I went down
I'm
there.
accidentally doing a 100-day retreat now because I can't leave my beach house.
It exactly was 102 days.
Oh, was it?
It was
I didn't
102
even know
days.
that. It's like 100.
Yeah, it was March 18th, 2020. The reason why I remember that date is because St. Patrick's Day is March 17th.
Okay, yeah.
I was in Sydney in the Triple H pub near where I live, having dinner with my wife Carol and son Ush. And then the next day, so I'm going on to Juro. I'll be back in a few days.
Yeah.
3 months later.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, we're locked in. Yeah, so I had a great COVID.
Yeah.
Because I was forced to do exactly that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think part of this process to the men listening around, well, who am I trying to be now that I'm in midlife?
Yeah.
It's like, so what's the disruptive act that will take you out of yourself and out of your routine so that you actually have a space to do, whether that's like going on a hike, seeing if you can borrow Pod's beach house. You've sold it now, so that's off the table.
You might have borrowed it once.
It was there.
That's right.
Going on a retreat. You got to do something to shed a skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I love about that? I've never understood or been a fan of go and figure out your purpose in 3 hours and then away you go. Because I've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
And anyone I know who is very purpose led has kind of sat in that conversation, sometimes for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But they didn't sat do nothing. They sat doing things to lean into different things.
It's kind of like minutes to learn, a lifetime to master, which is like you can make a start in 3 hours and you can probably get somewhere interesting and approximate.
Yeah.
But there's work to be done to refine it, to whittle it, to kind of keep reducing it to an essence so that it kind of has it fits the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I feel it now.
Yeah.
How did you know this quest about supporting and finding midlife wisdom was the stone in your hand?
Well, you mentioned COVID and being forced on a 102-day retreat. While I was down there, I thought, okay, I've just sold my business.
Yeah.
And my plan was to take a few weeks off and then decide what to do. And now here we are, the world's locked down, and I'm stuck in this beautiful 7-mile beach, and I'm 200 meters from it.
Poor bastard.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly right, poor bastard. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do a COVID project. I'm going to create a podcast. I've never had a podcast in my life, but it coincided with that story of, I think I've told you before. I was listening to this story about Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood came out. It was his birthday. His next door neighbor said to him, "Hey, Clint, happy birthday. What are you doing this year?" Clint said, "I'm going to make a movie." Right? I can't do a Clint Eastwood accent, but it sounds like I'm going to make a movie. And his neighbor said,
You know what, you're right. You can't do an accent.
So Clint Eastwood, in his Irish accent, said, "I'm going to make a movie." And his neighbor goes, "But you're 82.
Yeah.
He said, "But I wake up every day planning for I don't let the old man in."
Yeah.
And I just thought that was extraordinary.
Yeah.
I had just turned 50 a few weeks earlier.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, I'm a bit past halfway. I could naturally slide into this. My dad, who's a huge inspiration for me, he did slide into it prematurely.
Right.
And so a lot of my thinking is, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his neighbor then wrote a song called "Don't Let the Old Man In," which became the theme song for a movie called Mule,
Yeah.
which he won an Oscar for, right? So I was really excited about the whole story. And I thought, I'm going to do a podcast about that. So I went away and did some courses and planning to do what we're now doing today.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I realized at the time was, I'm not ready for that conversation yet. But let me get really good at the craft of podcasting.
Right.
So I've been doing podcasting for a couple of years. I tried a few different things. I'm now 55, and what I've noticed over the last couple of years is that's been germinating at the
Right.
back of my mind. In my coaching practice, I've noticed conversations about midlife are coming up more and more and more. Granted, the age of my clients is the same age as me, so it's a natural conversation. But what I started noticing, or as the confirmation bias has been kicking in,
Yeah,
whichever
I'm sure
way,
that's part of it.
is,
Yeah.
oh, a lot of folks struggle at this age. A lot of folks are really wondering, I'm stuck between caring for my parents and caring for my children, in some cases my grandchildren, and
But how did you know this was the thing rather than a passing fancy? I mean,
yeah,
how does it? I mean, I'm curious to hear how it lands in a way
yeah.
that gives you the courage to act.
It landed in the same way as me deciding to go full time into the coaching industry did
Right,
15 years ago. And that is, I want to be in this conversation every day, and I'm happy to do that for free, and I'm happy to
right,
do it for fun.
right.
And then as the opportunity to do it from a business perspective
Yeah.
emerged, my thought process was, sure, but I do it for free anyway.
Would
This is really
Would you
important.
do it for free?
Yeah.
Because I've sat with that because that's a line, right? I was like, oh, this is so good, I do it for free, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't do it for free, or I do it differently for free.
I,
There's a way. I mean, this is a sidetrack, but partly what for me makes something more than just a hobby, and I do hobbies for free,
yeah.
is I want to do something that makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
To make a difference and for it to be sustainable, there needs to be an exchange of value.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be money, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but I typically now for the stuff I care about, which are kind of mission driven,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to do this for free. I want to do this in a way that is sustainable and nourishing,
Yeah.
and it's not about winning a trophy or making a shit ton of money. Although if those things happen,
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
argue with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just think it's that reflection.
So when I say do it for free, I mean, I want to be in this conversation for the next 15 years.
Hmm.
I don't need to get paid to be in the conversation.
Mm.
It's a great
Got it.
conversation. Like, I don't need to be paid to be talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? It's fun. I'm learning. I'm enjoying it. The nourishment part or the sustainability part becomes, how do I put a business structure around this to make
Yeah.
sure that it's possible to go
Right.
for 15
Yeah.
years? And I approached
Yeah,
a
that
very,
makes
very
sense.
good friend of mine a number of months ago, former client. We became very, very good friends. We've been in various parts of the world together. I said, here's what I want to do. I want to build out a range of podcasts, all aimed at men midlife to
Yeah.
help them think about different things and put an education component to it. Would you come on board as my business advisor?
Yeah.
And he said, no. And I had that reaction going, thought we were friends.
Yeah.
But he said, I love the idea. I'd
Yeah.
like to come on board as your business partner
Amazing.
because this is too important to let
Yeah.
go. So the sustainability part comes there.
Yeah.
But for me, it's funny, my kids and my wife have been saying to me for about 3 months now, I haven't seen you this excited in years.
That's interesting.
That says something.
Yeah. I mean, I love this idea that I'm actively stepping into this arena. Like I'm not being pulled into the arena.
No.
I'm like, oh, I'm raring to go. But then you're like, and so what are the mechanics that can keep me here and keep it sustained and keep me nourished and the like? And that's a business model or something like that, where you're like, this is how the exchange of value works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from a financial perspective, because you're right, you don't set up a studio, a professional studio like we have done, unless there is a business plan behind it.
Yeah.
You mentioned the beach house. My wife and I sold that recently, and instead of reinvesting it money, we decided, you know what, just put it over here, and we're going to put some into this business because
Yeah.
this is going to be fun. So
Yeah,
there's a financial sustainability part to
Perfect.
it to make sure that I can be in the conversation for the next 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how I know that I want to be here is I could choose to do lots of different types of work and get paid for it.
Right.
I would actively want to be in this conversation
Yeah.
for as long as I could
Yeah. Love it.
because it's it nourishes me,
Yeah, I see
right?
that.
And if I think it's an interesting
Thinking of
conversation,
sparkly Irish
then
eyes.
my sparkly Irish eyes are sparkly, Michael. But speaking of our spouses,
Mm,
you've been married for over 30 years,
I have, yeah.
which is very successful
It
by
is.
anyone's measure. And you've been married for 30 years whilst you travel the world.
Yeah.
I'm interested in how do you stay curious in that relationship? What do you do to nourish that relationship?
Well, yeah, we had our 30th wedding anniversary this year.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Marcella.
Yeah, and I love the idea of like there's this wedding anniversary card. You're like, hey, thanks for 20 amazing years, 7 so-so years, and 3 pretty shitty years. You know, it's like that's but we've had like mostly really great years. Um, Partly I'm lucky enough that Marcella, and earlier on she and I talked about it. She's like she would self-describe herself as I'm a really good support person. I'm a really good number two.
Hmm.
I never want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to be the boss. But in terms of the chief operating officer, if you want to use that analogy,
Hmm.
that's a role she loves to play. So that's allows a dynamic to play out where we're
And
not.
that's a support role for you, the person, as opposed to the business that's built around you. Is that
Well,
right?
she's done both of those things in her time. She worked with me in the business for a while, which was terrible, then great, then terrible.
Yeah.
And then she retired the day before she turned 60.
Okay.
So um, there's a one dynamic that makes that easier, which is like we're not two people both going, look, I'm trying to be the star of our particular show, and then having to balance that uh, investment of time and effort and resources between the two of you. Uh, and part of it is, like, I'm not sure what the answer is here, Pod, other than it is an ongoing conversation between Marcella and me around how much I travel.
Hmm.
And there's a tension we are trying to navigate. She's much more, look, let's be in Toronto, let's stay home, let's hang out. I mean, honestly, she loved COVID because she's like, this is great. Michael can't travel and I get to hang out with Michael the whole
Yeah.
time. And it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But I've also got a degree of restlessness and
Yeah.
an interest in traveling and a kind of more of a desire to see the world.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got my family in Australia, so I want to be in Australia
Yeah.
and see them. So I'm not sure what the answer is there, other than uh, we stumble our way through it together. I do love that saying about marriage, which is like a good marriage is when you both think you're getting the better half of the deal.
Hmm.
And that's how I feel, and I think that's how she feels as well. Like we're both getting a pretty good deal out of this. It
Yeah.
feels like a
Yeah.
good for both of us. And even when we disagree, or like I get Marcella to edit my stuff, and she's this ruthless editor. It's like taking a red pen and plunging it repeatedly through my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't doubt that she doesn't have my best interests at heart as the
Yeah.
motivator for what she's doing and what she's saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes I disagree with therefore how it's being expressed,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I know the motivation, and the motivation is always great.
I love what you said there about 30 years, 22 were great, and
Yeah,
that's
whatever, yeah.
7. Because when you're on the other side of 30,
Yeah.
and you look back and you realize, of course, it can't be perfect 30 years.
Yeah.
But you've also come through the 7, and you're on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Right? My wife Carol and I have gone through some stuff recently, but last week we just went to each other, oh, you're back.
Oh.
Right? And she said, and so are you.
Yeah, yeah.
You're both back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a great place to be on the other side. Right?
It is.
But as you're going through the tough parts,
Yeah.
it's you just don't know that you can get there, right?
Yeah.
But you have to go through it.
You have to go through it.
And I love what you said about if you believe you're getting the better half, then you're probably more willing to lean in and give back.
I mean, I think if you've somehow created a relationship with no conflict in it, you probably haven't understood the brief.
Mm-hmm.
Part of why you end up having conflict is, A, it's impossible to go through life without stepping on toes or misunderstanding or, being waking up hangry one day and being snippy or whatever it might be. And so, it's that kind of sense of you give the other person grace, going, oh, they're having a bad day, or they're triggered by something, or they're anxious, or they're wound up, or whatever. Just the benefit of having somebody who is a companion to you in your life. It's like it's worth the occasional regular minor irritations.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it, Marcel. If you're listening to this, when will you learn how to stack a dish rack properly? Honestly.
You said from your age, are you, Michael?
How hard is it to put dishes in a dish rack so that they actually drain properly?
Yeah.
For Marcella, it's like an impossibility. It's
Right.
like, this is something she would never master in her entire life. And I'm like, still vaguely
You've learned to
enraged.
accept that now, or at least tolerate it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to pause for 1 second. If you've got this far, that means you must be enjoying the show. Thank you for watching. We have a plan to build out a whole lot more shows just like this. And to do so, we need your help. The platform amplifies shows that have higher eyeballs and subscriptions. So to help us attract guests that you will find very interesting, please press like and subscribe. That way, we can attract the guests that you want, and we won't let the old man in. Now, on with the show. Which brings me to a book that we haven't discussed yet today. That's The Advice Monster.
Yeah, the advice.
Which was, and you talk about the Advice Monster on your TED Talk. You talk about the advice trap in the book. And for those folks who don't know it, it was in some senses it was a great follow-on to the coaching habit, but it also has leaned into other aspects of life outside of coaching, I think.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always took from it was some really good life advice in here, particularly for long-term relationships.
Right.
And one of the habits that I certainly lean to myself, and I've noticed other men do too, is you get to a stage of like in your 50s, you have a lot of experience, you know a lot.
Yeah.
Can you be bothered waiting for people to come to their own conclusion? Like, why do you just tell them how it works?
Yeah.
Particularly at home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that coincides with your young kids now being 19 and 20 who are less inclined to listen to your profound wisdom.
I don't have kids, but I can. Apparently, that's what happens to
Apparently
teenagers.
it is. I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently, teenagers are biologically designed to resist all advice.
Indeed. Particularly from their old man.
Yeah.
What's your sense of the notion of the advice trap and giving advice, and how do you pause to think about that differently?
Advice just is almost never as good as you think it is. That's a starting point. It's like, it's just never as good as you think it is. Not least because, in 2025, it's easier to get good advice from a computer than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Like, advice is so cheap, so obvious, so findable.
Yeah.
That you going, look, the thing that's most valuable about me is my advice is, I think, diluted. It's the 10-year anniversary of the coaching habit next year, so we're putting out a hard copy of the book. It's amazing. It's got a little graphic novel experience through it, which I'm really excited about. But I've written an extra chapter at the end, which is about the being of coaching.
Okay.
Because the coaching habit, as it is kind of the doing of coaching. Here are 7 great questions. Here's how you ask a question well.
Yeah.
But there's a deeper impact that I think showing up more coach-like, which for me means, can you stay curious a little bit longer? Can you rush to action and advice giving a little bit more slowly? There's a deeper impact in that, which is like, people want to be seen, and they want to be heard, and they want to be encouraged. Seen and heard and encouraged. And it's remarkable how little you need to do for that impact to be felt. And you don't even have to ask a whole lot of questions. You don't have to give advice. You just have to kind of be present with that other person. And that impact can be felt. I mean, you and I had dinner with some people last night, and I was talking to one of them, and they were talking about trying to coach their teenage child. Right. And they're like, damn it. It's like they keep resisting the coaching that I'm trying to do. And, I'm not sure this is the truth, but it felt to me that for them, their coaching was, look, I am trying to help my kid.
Yeah.
And I've learned that giving them advice directly doesn't work.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to coach them directly.
That's right.
It's like,
I was going to ask a question with my opinion in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or even because sometimes coaching is like, they ask a a question, which is like, have you thought about doing this? Which of course isn't a question at all. It's just advice with a question mark tacked onto the end of it.
Yeah.
But even sometimes the act of I'm going to coach you is my job is to save you and solve this and fix this problem.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what you want to do if you're a human, and particularly if you're a parent with a kid, because you're like, that's my job, is to help my kid be okay. But um, people don't like to be processed. It's like, I don't want to be taken through your damn process. Um, but they do want to be seen and heard and encouraged. So as I was talking to this person, I was like, I don't know if this would work, but if your kid is saying something to you, just saying, man, that sounds hard. Is there anything I can do to help? That is a very generous offer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember that, because they said to me, yeah, they'll just say, give me more money. And I'm like, you don't have to say yes to everything
right.
that they ask for.
Yeah.
Rather than going, oh, you know what you need? You need some coaching. So allow me to coach you. You're still kind of in what Ed Schein would call the one-up position.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the status here. I know what's best for you. I'm going to coach you now. Whereas if you go, hey, how can I help? What would be most helpful for you? Or even just like, man, that's hard. Or that's great. Or I'm so delighted about that. Or I just see how you're doing such a good job figuring that out. All of that for me is that kind of that broader sense of coaching, which is help them feel seen, help them feel heard, help them feel encouraged. It's not saying never give advice, because obviously the civilization is based on advice being passed around. But if you do feel the need to give advice, here's my advice on how to do it. You're like, rather than leading with your advice, at a bare minimum, find out what they've already figured out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pod, if you come to me going, hey, I'm trying to scale podcasts. I've got this great vision. I'm ambitious. Michael, you've run a bunch of podcasts in your time. Well, what's your best advice for me around how I make this new media enterprise even more brilliant? I'd say something like, mate, I'm super excited about this. I love your ambition for it. It's not just one podcast. You got 4 or 5 on the burner. You got a whole educational thing you're going to launch. Midlife is so important for men and for men going through it and for the women who love the men going through it. I can totally see how this is an audience. In terms of scaling the podcast, what have you already thought about? What's already on the docket for your thoughts?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've got thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's brilliant. I love that idea. What else could you do? Yeah, great. What else have you thought of? Oh, that's nice. Yeah. What else is bubbling up? This is fantastic. And after 30 minutes where you're like, I've got super excited and I've been telling you ideas I didn't even realize I had in my own head, I might go, well, I hear all you've been saying. Look, here's one other thought I've got for you that might be helpful.
Yeah.
And so I've still got advice for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not trying to train people to become coaches. I'm trying to help people be more coach-like, which is more of an orientation to all the people in your life. And the definition for this for me is, can you stay curious a little bit longer? Can you rush to action and advice giving a little bit more slowly? So it's not saying never give advice, but that little pretend conversation, I'm like, yeah, I gave you advice. I just waited a bit to figure out what else was going on.
Yeah.
So that when I came to offer it, I had a better idea of what problem you were trying to solve, what you'd already figured out for yourself, and what was actually helpful for me to offer up to you.
Last night we had dinner with some friends, and the conversation went to AI, as every conversation does at every dinner party, and it might for quite a long time. But one of the things that really came out of that dinner was our kids and teenagers and young friends are getting lots of good advice from whatever platform they're using, and increasingly being reinforced in their own opinions by that very good advice or whatever. So the role of the parent or the elder in purely giving the advice piece is dramatically being overtaken.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I love what you just said is, if you realize that, then it allows you to play a different role,
Yeah,
or at least to have a different conversation, because you don't have to play that role anyway, because
right.
they've already got the advice and
Yeah.
possibly very, very good advice, or at least very good information.
Yeah. Or maybe they haven't even thought about whether it's good advice or not. So maybe there's a kind of thing you can do going, that sounds interesting. If you do that, what are the consequences? You know, what would be hard about it?
Yeah.
What would be great about it? What's at risk if you followed this piece of advice? Because that kind of secondary curiosity, let me help you think around this,
Yeah.
that can be really powerful. Because your kid will come to you, or whoever, and go, oh, I've got some advice from AI and this is what they're telling me to do. And you'll immediately have this surge of, that's a terrible idea. They should definitely not do that. Or, holy God, that's a really good idea. Am I even more redundant than I thought I was?
That's right.
Or something
Yeah.
in between that.
Yeah.
Um, but what's interesting is like it's really less about your reaction. It's more about how can I be of best service to this person.
Well, I think that's a fundamental starting point is what's your orientation to begin with.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
your orientation is I am a very, very knowledgeable person because I'm 55 and I've been around the traps and you should benefit just by
yeah,
listening,
yeah,
then you're going to run into a wall.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm teaching coaching skills, I often say to people, look, if you can realize that the thing that makes you valuable, powerful, generous, strategic is helping people figure out what the problem is rather than come to them with the fast, easy, not that good answer. That is such a radical shift in identity, in orientation, in impact. It changes everything. It's like, stop trying to give them answers.
Mhm.
Just advice isn't as good as you think it is. But help them engage with the challenge at hand and get clarity around that. That is magic.
Speaking of magic, Coaching Habit, we've referred to a couple of times. 1.5 million copies sold.
Yeah, I know it's pretty good.
It's extraordinary.
I know. I
Just
mean, it's like a little flash of magic in a bottle.
It
Yeah.
is a flash of magic in the bottle. And that, I mean, I'm not saying it's because you're in front of me. I think I've given out that more of that book to anybody than any other book
Oh,
that I've
thank you.
given out over
Yeah.
the years. The fact that it says on this copy over 500,000 copies sold means I bought this a couple of years
I
ago.
know.
Right?
It's like there's a for me there's this continual or a collection of these kind of different reprints, and it's like over 100,000 copies sold, or over 10 copies sold, over 100,000 copies sold, over 500,000. Now it's like over 1 million copies sold,
Wow.
and yeah, and the new 10-year anniversary, we're rebooting the cover just slightly,
Okay.
and so it'll be different
How
again.
has this changed your life?
Well, in pretty significant ways. I mean, it's given me a degree of it's given me financial freedom. You know, uh, enhanced by the fact that it's self-published.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in the traditional publishing deal, uh, if you're lucky, you make about 10% of the cover price of a book as a rule of thumb. In the way that I work with my publishing companies, I'm more like a third of the cover. So,
Yeah.
but 3x the amount of money that I would have earned if I'd gone through a traditional publisher. And it sold 1.5 million copies. So
You've done well.
you can figure out the math
Yeah.
around that. I
Yeah.
can't, but it's like
Shannon can.
it's some millions
Yeah.
of dollars over the years. And so there's that.
Yeah.
How has it changed my life? So giving me financial freedom for sure. Giving me a contentment of sorts around that infecting 1 billion people with the possibility virus, because this is the embodiment of what I hope that would be.
Yeah.
Because when you go, I've given this book out to a lot of people over time. I have a lot of people telling me they've given this book out to a lot of people.
Yeah. Which
over
means
the
the
time.
virus is spreading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the secret to its success is there's this word of mouth and this giftability to it that really makes a difference. And it means that, I have occasional wonderful moments where people come up to me in the middle of the street and go, hey, thank you for this. So I've got just the right amount of notoriety, which is like entirely anonymous, except for occasionally when I'm not.
Yeah.
Ideally, when I've got other people watching me. So I was traveling with my nephew in Italy, in Lake Como,
Oh,
and I'm standing with
fantastic.
Seamus, and this person comes up to me, goes, "You're Michael. I got your book. I love it." And Seamus was like, "That's pretty cool."
My uncle's a cool
Yeah,
dude.
Michael. And then like, just this trip to Australia,
Yeah.
my family and I were having dinner with my mum in her nursing home. So there's like 6 or 7 of us there. And as we get up to leave, a guy comes over from the other table going, "Michael, I teach your book in the Navy. Just that this week I was watching a guy controlling the bridge of a Navy boat, and it was going wrong, and his commander coached him through it using the 7 questions from the coaching habit book." I'm like, A, I love that story.
Yeah.
B, I love that my whole family heard this guy
Yeah.
talking to me about the story.
Yeah.
So it's helped with that. But I'm also hoping it hasn't shifted that much, because I suspect that I would hope that even if the coaching habit book hadn't taken off, I would be doing something similar,
Yeah.
which is like
Yeah.
do a project, finish a project, take a breath, be miserable for a bit because I'm always a bit kind of grumpy in between projects, find the next project, commit to it,
Yeah.
kind of stay grounded, maintain a sense of humor.
Well, I'm glad you wrote it. Because it's had a big impact, and in a way, I'm excited to see the 10th year
Me too,
anniversary
me
coming
too,
up.
yeah.
There's another book that I have on my desk here that I want to. This is one of my favorites,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
and it's my favorite for a few reasons. One is it's just called "Do Something That Matters" Journal.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of content, but it's a huge amount of process and structure that
Yeah,
is
there
extraordinarily
is.
helpful.
Yeah.
I've been journaling for a long, long time. I really believe in the power of it, and it's helped me a lot. And what really interested me when you first told me you were doing this and when it was released, I remember you and I had a conversation, maybe 10 years ago, where you said, I struggled with journaling for a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time.
I've
And here you are, you've done a journal.
I know. I have started so many different journaling protocols and abandoned them all.
Yeah.
Um, but after a while, I started using bullet journaling as a style, which is more of an aesthetic and a kind of like, here's how you structure a journal so that you can kind of turn it into a planning tool.
Yeah.
And with the bullet journaling, I found that I just would give myself daily questions to
Yeah.
answer. And I'm not really a kind of write 2 pages type of journalist. I mean, I did this hike with this woman the other week, and she's like, in a perfect world, I would spend half a day journaling about the first half of the day. And I'm like, that sounds like hell on earth to me. I'm like, I'm just like,
You've taken the morning
I
pages
just do
ritual
not have
too
that.
far.
I just do not have that interiority
Yeah.
kind of complexity going on.
Yeah.
So for me, I use the journal as kind of daily check-ins to kind of go, how do I just be ready for the day?
Mhm.
So the 3 morning questions are, what do you notice? Designed to kind of be present, really, which is like, what's going on? What's in my head? What do I see out the window? What am I feeling? Kind of just what's going on. Because I'm not always great at being present. I'm a bit kind of in the future, as I said.
Mhm.
What do you want? Such an annoyingly tricky question. But what I found is if you keep asking yourself what you want, you start understanding what you want. And
Mhm.
understanding what you want is a really powerful unlock for action. And then what's the one thing today? I'm a man who is, you know, terrorized by my own to-do list. And too often I'm like, I've done 93 things on my to-do list. None of them were the important thing that
Yeah.
I needed
Yeah.
to do today. So it's like, what's the thing? And then the fourth question is, what made today a good day?
Yeah.
Which, if you journal at the end of the day, you could do it. I tend to come to it the next morning and kind of
Yeah.
reflect back on it.
Yeah.
But there's also a structure in it that you kind of have a weekly place of a bit more reflection. So what am I up to this week?
Yeah.
And what did I learn from this week? And then there's a kind of 6-week cycle as
Yeah.
well, which is like, okay, I'm at the end of a 6-week cycle.
Yeah.
What's shifting? What am I noticing? Where do I want to go? What do I know now that I didn't know before?
Yeah. I found the structure really helpful. And it kind of led me into the conspiracy, which is another one of your products,
Yeah.
which is an action-oriented, creative type
Yeah.
process. But what I loved about this, and you just said two things. What was the best thing about today? And that's how I start most mornings.
Oh, that's so good.
Yesterday, I use that to start.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's always a best thing, even if the day was shit. There's still a best
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. It's
I
kind
am
of,
here today from yesterday.
yeah, I
Let's start
mean,
with that.
there's all this research around the power of gratitude. And, you know, it's kind of as close as you can get to a single thing that makes your life better
Yeah,
is a regular practice of
yeah, I
gratitude.
agree. Yeah.
But the question, what am I grateful for? That begins to grate for me.
Hmm.
It's too it's too passive or something. Um, but what made today a good day means you're like, yeah, you know what? Even in the shittiest of days,
Yeah,
where do I find the little thing to
yeah,
go? It was this.
yeah,
It was like it was a bad day, but boy, I had a good espresso
yeah.
this morning.
That's
I'm
exactly the
like,
barista
that
gave
that
the coffee I
okay,
wanted.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I love it.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure we can do a whole lot of podcasts on journaling because it's such an
Yeah.
important topic, and maybe
Yeah.
we might come back. But for anyone who is not used to it or wants to find a structure to get them started, I can certainly say do something that matters as a journal
Yeah.
process is really, really helpful.
It kind of partners up with a book I wrote called How to Begin. And the idea of how to begin um, is, and is a great midlife question, which is like, all right, what's your worthy goal? What is the goal that is thrilling, lights you up, important, gives more to the world than it takes, and daunting? You're like, I don't know how to pull this off. That will stretch you, grow you, engage you, in kind of where we started this conversation. You know, I imagine all that you're doing here, uh, ticks all the boxes of a worthy goal.
Yeah.
I mean, it is thrilling. You talked about how important it is, how happy you are. It is important. You're like, you know what? I am trying to make the lives of men going through midlife better and the people around them make their lives better as well. I mean, so that's a really
Yeah.
great gift to the world. And I imagine it's daunting because I imagine part of you is going, how do you spin up a media company with 5 different podcasts? How do you launch an education arm? I mean, I know you've not done stuff like that
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
Haven't done this.
probably at the scale and the
Yeah.
ambition you're thinking, part of you is like, I'm kind of winging it a little bit. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of worlds, let me just change topic a bit. I want to go a bit more closer to home,
Okay.
if I could.
Yeah.
Those of us in midlife, or what we often are referred to as the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
We are at the stage of life where we could be really enjoying ourselves. Our kids have left home.
Yeah.
We think, but then they bounce back, so then they haven't left home. We're often taking care of our parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take care of grandchildren. So we're kind of in between a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And last night over dinner, you made a comment which I thought was a fabulous comment and an insight into lots of things. But it really hit a chord. Going, he's right. You're referring to, and you mentioned her a few minutes ago. Yeah, your mom in her nursing home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But last night you said, me and my 2 brothers, the 3 boys, we're trying to do the best we can, and we might end up being a competent daughter.
Exactly. It's a real aspiration because, I'm lucky enough to have 2 brothers I really like, and we're really aligned with how we want to show up in the world and to want the best for our mum.
Yeah.
But I just noticed the difference between our approach and my wife's approach when her mum was dying with her, and how she and her sister managed her mum. And they were faster, braver, bolder, kind of more up for we're just going to take this on and we're going to sort this out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I really noticed with my brothers and I, we're a little bit like, look, we've got the best of intentions, but why don't we just step back and just let's see how it all goes and let's see how it plays out. And we're kind of like, we're there if it goes wrong,
Yeah.
but we're less catalytic, we're less instigators around that. Women, because they had bazillion generations of practice
Yes.
at
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
have a more a better, what is even the right word? Uh, just a better understanding of like this is the shit that needs to get done, and just passively sitting around going, oh, let's just see, and it's probably okay, and whatever you want. That just doesn't always cut the mustard. So, I live in Canada, so I'm not there present with my mum, except when I come back to Australia to visit. So the way my two brothers have figured it, it's like my two brothers are kind of there for more of the day-to-day presence, sustainment, moving the things along. Like one of my brothers is like, we got one brother who's like, you manage the finances. Another brother going, you manage the health. You're kind of point person for that.
Yeah.
And my job is to be a little bit more catalytic around, let's get this stuff, some stuff moving around this. So I was the one who kind of forced the issue on. We got to get this house sold. We got to get mum into this nursing home faster than we thought we did.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be the right decision.
Right.
Because her mental acuity deteriorated faster. We only just got into the good nursing home before they were full up. Selling a house, what's been lived in for 55 years, just involves a vast amount of throwing out useless stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, this idea of it's interesting. I mean, it's come up with some other midlife men friends I've been talking to, going, we've realized our spouses and our partners we've kind of outsourced a lot of the mental load to them. We're kind of like, oh no, we're doing our thing, but sure, whatever you want,
Yeah.
whatever you think.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think we should have for dinner?
Yeah.
And um, I'm like, in some ways it comes from a good orientation, which is like, look, I'm trying not to be a dominant patriarch going, my house, my rules, submit to your man. But the flip side of that is becoming passive and handing the mental load of making those choices to them. And I think a competent daughter, people going, look, I'm assuming the mental load. And I think, one of the things that's come up recently in my conversations with my friends is like, yeah, I do that. So how do I take my share of the mental load of running a life?
My wife Carol often says, I don't want to be the adult in every conversation.
Exactly.
And it's a cue to me to go, come in and
step up here.
Step up here, make a decision. I don't care what the decision is, just you do it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
When you think of your own aging, what do you think the 75, 80-year-old version of you would be asking you now to think about this ahead of becoming the older version of me?
Last night over dinner, I brought up this guy Peter Attia.
Yes, from the longevity.
The longevity guy.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have said exactly longevity. The way I've understood his work is, first of all, this insight that our lifespan is increasing and our health span is not increasing.
Yeah.
And the insight of his that really struck home is, your last 10 years are probably going to be a bit crappy. They are for most people. And your job now is to train for your last decade. So how do you train mental acuity, physical acuity, relationship acuity? You're like, how are you working now to be the best version of yourself? So whatever, because you don't even know what your last 10 years are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, for a lot of people, they're kind of a struggle. So how do you give yourself the best shot that they're not going to be that? So, amongst other things, that's got me more interested in trying to be fit and healthy than I've been for a long time. Because I used to go to the gym, and I'm not even sure why I'm going to the gym. Like, I'm not gonna be like taking my shirt off and posing on a beach, making my pectorals jiggle or anything like that. But now I'm like, oh, I'm training to be fit for the last decade of my life.
Right.
That gives me a real sense of, I know why I'm doing this work now.
Yeah.
I know why I'm trying to get stronger. I'm trying to stretch a bit. I know why I'm trying to increase my VO2 max.
Yeah.
I know why I'm doing a DEXA scan, so I know what my body fat is. So I've got a target for
Yeah.
that. I've got two physical targets, a VO2 number and a body fat number,
Okay.
which, as best I can tell, would put me in the top 10% of 58-year-olds.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's what I want to be. I want to be top 10% around that.
Have you decided those numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 47 on as a VO2
Okay.
max number. VO2
Okay.
max is measuring your aerobic and anaerobic capacity. So it's like how good's your engine kind of
Yeah.
thing. And my number on that is 45, so it's really close.
Okay.
And my body fat number was 13% body fat.
Okay.
And I've got a DEXA scan coming up in 2 weeks to find out what that is.
Okay.
So I've been trying to be good while I'm here in Australia. It's gone badly. I'm like, people keep wafting Tim Tams in front of me, and I'm like, this is a DEXA
I'm pretty
scan
sure
nightmare.
you had a rhubarb crumble last
I
night.
had exactly like too many glasses of wine and a rhubarb crumble. I'm like, this is not a good. But
But the point is, you have a destination, and you
I've
have
got
a
a
goal,
destination.
and you've come back out of the valley,
Yeah.
back up to the ridge to go. Here's what I'm looking
Yeah.
towards. I'm looking towards the last decade.
And then things like
Yeah.
relationships. There's all that statistics. You probably know them better than me about like how lonely men are,
Yeah.
and how few friends men have. And what I realize is I've got to be active with the people who are my inner circle of my friends.
Yeah.
So there's this British academic called Dunbar, and he's come with this thing called Dunbar's number.
Yeah, the five friends.
And basically, it's like you can kind of contain 150 people who are friends, in terms of you kind of know their name, their face, and stuff about them. After that, it's hard to hold all of those names. But within that 150, there are all these kind of inner circles. And, you got like, one or two or three friends who are your absolute 2 a.m. friends, inner circle, outer circle, it kind of expands.
Yeah. So
I've gone through my friends and I've assigned them numbers. And so I have my D15s, and my D15s are like, basically they're the people I would get on a plane for.
Right.
When I get something from them and I'm like, hey, this has gone wrong, this is a funeral, this is a wedding.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to try and get on a plane, I'm going to try and make that happen. My D50s are people with whom I want to be in touch with you 2 or 3 times a year to find out how you're doing.
Yeah.
D150s, I want to be in touch with you once a year to find out how you're doing. And then everybody else is serendipity.
Right.
And so actually in my phone, I've got little symbols next to the people who are in
Seriously?
that. So I can look at them and go, if I'm looking at my phone and who I've texted or called, am I seeing enough green dots?
Right.
Because I've got,
That's your D15.
that's my D. So I've got love hearts for my family.
Yeah.
I've got that kind of rock and roll sign
These
for
are
my
15.
I'm forgetting which ones. But I think that's for my D15s.
Yeah.
I've got a green dot for my D50s.
Okay.
And I'm like, great. So I can actually see if I've got the right kind of
Yeah.
flow through here.
Can I check your phone to see what I'm in?
No, you
No,
can't.
can't.
That'd be
Yeah,
too
there's
embarrassing.
nothing there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you're even in my phone.
That's why you haven't replied to my text. There you are.
Yeah.
I really love that idea, and I remember a conversation a number of years ago. I think that I set up a music club 10 years ago. It's 10 years old now.
Wow. Okay, sorry.
And part of it was, who would I call at 2 a.m?
Yeah.
And how do we get to hang out more often? That was part of my thinking.
Yeah,
We set up
exactly.
a music club, which was we go to a gig every single week. It's now 10 years old. When I look at the folks who are in that group more often than not, they are still the same people that I know I could call at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's great.
And what's beautiful about that is the number might have been, say, 6. I don't know what it was, but now it's probably 15.
Oh,
right?
it's
You go,
amazing.
the music club type stuff helps you forge relationships over time,
Yeah.
which I think is really important
I
to get
love
over.
that idea.
Yeah.
One of the insights that's been really helpful for me is a quote. It's like, nobody likes to be the first to say hello, but everybody loves to be greeted. And part of what I a responsibility I'd like to take on is knowing that too many people are a bit crappy at actually being active and reaching out and doing that. I'm like, look, I'm going to try and be the person who initiates.
Mhm.
It's irritating at times because I'm like, I'd like more people to initiate with me. I'd like to be invited out more often and checked in on more often. But I can't control that. I can only control my side of the table.
Mhm.
So my job is to keep doing that to the people I care about and love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Before I come to
A grand
one or two
finale.
final questions.
Yeah.
Say it again.
To a grand finale.
To a grand finale, or at least a grand temporary finale
Have
before
closing song.
before you're back again.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, speaking of song, I mentioned the music club.
Yeah.
As you know, I love music and I love reading, and so I am interested in when you look back now, what song or text has really influenced you that you still go back to?
Well, I listen to a lot of Bob Dylan. And
Stephen Key's my partner will love you.
yeah, I love Bob Dylan. He is such a he's so just unabashedly himself in terms of, look, this is how I sing. And you got this. Partly I love Bob Dylan because I can sing along and I don't feel like I'm doing injustice to the song.
I found my threshold.
Yeah, exactly. A song that of his, I mean, I moved through songs of his, but there's a song from one of his more recent albums called "Crossing the Rubicon," and I love that. There's another song from a slightly less recent album called "Cold Irons Bound," and they're all slightly they're kind of they feel middle-agey to me. They're feeling like, it's not dark yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this this sense of impending mortality and just what it means to wrestle with, look, it's not dark yet, but it's getting there. I'm crossing, what does it mean to cross the Rubicon? Those are songs that speak to me.
I saw, I was looking to go to Nashville a few weeks ago to
Yeah.
see Bob Dylan
Oh,
and Willie Nelson play together.
I saw them. I
It was-
saw them on the Willie Nelson tour.
Yeah,
So
it was superb.
Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, John Cougar Mellencamp. Yeah.
And Nathaniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen Bob Dylan a few times before, twice before. Both times was disappointing for me gig.
Yeah.
This one,
Yeah.
I thought was brilliant.
Oh, he's very. I mean, we saw Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan like last year, and Dylan came on, kind of doesn't do a whole lot of audience interaction. He just gets there, plays his songs.
Yeah.
Half the time you're like, do I know this song?
Yeah.
You're trying to listen to it because he's playing his own new arrangement.
Yeah.
And then Willie Nelson comes on and is super audience. He totally knows how to
At
play the
92
audience.
or 93.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
amazing at
Yeah.
92. Yeah.
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 Yeah, Bob Dylan finished off with a version of Radio Night in Soho by Shane McGowan,
Oh,
which was
nice.
extraordinary.
Yeah,
Just,
exactly.
extraordinary performance. But I was so not expecting that. It's like,
That sounds
oh my
great.
God. I'm a huge Shane McGowan fan who died last year. To hear Bob Dylan
That's
singing
right.
that song was just brilliant.
That is
yeah.
brilliant.
So yeah, I was really glad.
Yeah.
Really glad I went there.
That's right. So Dylan and Paul Kelly, who is like Australia's Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Some of his songs are beautiful. There's a song of his called Deeper Water, and it's a generational song of kind of it makes me tear up a bit thinking about it. The kind of the cleansing experience of the beach and the waves and life and death. I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, he is one of life's best lyricists, isn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah.
I don't really know much about him, but I do remember in Ireland, a lot of the great songwriters used to refer to this guy called Paul Kelly because his
Yeah.
ability to write lyrics. I mean, his story about the Christmas gravy is
Yeah, yeah,
just a
exactly.
phenomenal
It's amazing. Yeah.
story. It's just been turned into a movie based
I
on
heard
a
that,
song
yeah,
lyric.
yeah.
Michael, it's been a pleasure as always. I always feel like you and I having a conversation, at least I feel I'm in a bath of warm milk and it's just beautiful. It's just cozy.
Do you like a bath of warm milk?
No,
I don't think I
no.
would like a bath of warm milk.
It feels
Idiot
clear
to me.
natural like.
Idiot.
Like, oh, this is just lovely.
Okay,
Just gorgeous.
okay.
Could talk for hours. What's your invitation? What's your invitation to people listening? People who are in midlife, people who are maybe have stumbled across a few of the things that you talked about today for the first time and are going,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting.
I would ask people. I've got two questions to offer up to people listening, and they can take one or both or none of the above. I don't mind. The first is the question: what's the burden it's time to put down? It's finally time to put this down. You've been like carrying it for a while, and just the freedom and release that you can get by putting something down. So what is that? And then the second question is, what's whispering to you from the future? What's that kind of calling you? It's probably not a really obvious call, but there's this kind of like faint stirring you got going on. Because I think both the letting the go and the stepping towards are part of what it means to kind of be a person who's engaging in what it means to be in midlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. On that note, thank you so much. I know you're onto a plane to go up to the Gold Coast and hang out with some friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, talk about nourishing. These are like 4 or 5 friends from high school, and it'll be a treat to spend time with them.
Very good.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Pod.
Coming up next on Don't Let the Old Man In.
Where does this relationship with food stem from? Sometimes what worked in your 20s or 30s won't necessarily work in your 40s and 50s, even if you have done the exact same thing.
Dr. Angela Kwong is redefining how we approach weight management. Angela is the founder of Enlighten Me, a medically supervised weight loss program delivering stigma-free, evidence-based, multidisciplinary care for patients across Australia. In 2025, Enlighten Me was named winner of the Outstanding Patient Education Award at the Patients Australia Awards Gala. Angela is taking on weight loss, life changes, and demystifying the new wave of weight loss drugs.
They assume that everyone who takes the medication is going to be having issues with nausea, issues with reflux, issues with constipation, issues with their libido. And so it can really polarize people because they're exposed to only the people who make noise with their experience with the medication.
For many of us in midlife, we are looking to transition to something else, and a lot of us might be scared of taking that step towards something new.
Sometimes you have to remember that people who love and protect you are doing that because they love you and because they want to protect you. But if you have a really strong purpose, you have to listen to your own heart.